quiet for me kids.
Alright guys, this is Mr. Franklin, and you've heard quite a bit about him, and you wrote in his birthday cards, and he wanted to come and speak to you, and he's got a list of your questions that you wrote in your cards, and then at the end, whenever he's finished talking, I'll let you ask the questions that I wrote down, okay, and I'll give them to you when it's time, okay? So, everybody, welcome Mr. Franklin. Miss Franklin back there, too. And I'll just let you talk. Do you want me to sit up here, or you want me to stand back here?
No, I don't care. Do I have to stand in one place?
No, you
Do I
can
get
sit.
on?
You're fine. You don't have to stand.
And I got a cane here, but I try to get by without it sometimes. So it's well, it's a very beautiful group of kids. I tell you, it's a pleasure to come and be with you. This is the ones that sent me all the birthday cards, right? Well, I've read them all twice and and got some questions out of some of them. And my daughter was a former teacher too, and she looked through them all and she picked out a bunch of your questions that you'd asked me. But well, when she first asked me, you know, I started taking notes what she wanted me to talk about. And I started taking notes, and I just notes. I said, I'll never get through with all this, of course. I know I haven't got that much time. But my daughter come up with these questions, gonna make it a lot easier. I'm gonna ask a question, and you can we'll elaborate on it, whatever that question is a little bit. But let me first tell you who I am. L.E. Franklin is my name, and I live over close to town, over on the north side. And I was in the Navy, to start off with, but there's some little points I would like to mention, but I forget. See, I'm 90 years old, I guess you heard. And I joined the Navy when I was 18. When I left out of high school, went down and joined the Navy. Went down to join the Marines, and they had too many that month, so we just went over to the courthouse and joined the Navy. So they got me. And so I guess I showed them, you know. But I hate to be so particular about what I'm talking about. You know, I was, like I say, I was 18 when I got that. I wanted one of those big, bright uniforms that the Marines have, you know. I thought I'd look good in one of those things. But I don't know, God was looking out for me all the time. And that was just a fact, incident. I went over to the Navy and joined the Navy. And we went through a boot camp in San Diego, California, and then when the time come for needing people to go to aboard ship, and it's a huge station, training station, and they about 35 or 40, they took us up to Bremerton, Washington to go aboard ship. And this was a cruiser. Okay. I wasn't noticed out there, I was going to draw it on board. But anyway, it's a heavy cruiser next to a battleship. Come down smaller like this. And the morning, first night we got in there, they boarded us in a little small hotel-like thing, you know. Come down in a bunch and in the dry dock. You know what dry dock is, in case you put your ship. Well, this ship was, the front end of it was all gone. 150 feet of it was gone. The rest of it back there. And they told us, well, what happened here? Well, it was torpedoed and blew that much off the ship. And I thought, my goodness life, what have I got myself into here? And then about a couple of months, the ship was repaired, and we went to Pearl Harbor in the Hawaiian Islands. And there we took some training down there. And first out, we went to some of the closer islands and checking the ship out, see if it was okay. And so I'm going to start with these questions here, and if you want to ask anything else at any time, just say so. It says, how old were you when you joined served in World War II? Well, like I said, I went in, I was 18, and my 19th birthday, had come into Pearl Harbor, and the Royal Hawaiian Hotel had been taken over by the services. And had all the big services stay in this hotel. On my 19th birthday, I got to spend the night there. What, honey? Oh, shit.
Was this before or after the Pearl Harbor attacks?
Oh, it was after, see. It was a year after Pearl Harbor before I went in. And it was the Pearl Harbor is a great landing docks and landing place there, where there's a lot of ships, and that's where they struck. There, the Japanese did, and Pearl Harbor was a big circular thing with an island in the middle. And I might get off my notes here, but I'll just, since he mentioned that, we went to Pearl Harbor from San Francisco into Pearl Harbor, and that was a sight to see. So many ships had been sunk, and they were sitting on the bottom, nothing but just the superstructure showing over up, and everything was covered with oil and everything. But I stayed there a few days, but now let me back up here. I said, how old are you? And I think I mentioned that I was 18, and there was about, the ship, we had about 1,200 men on there. How many? Well, about 400 of us was brand new. We didn't know anything what to do. They put us in the divisions, scattered us out. And so everything was brand new for us. And the first time out, you said, why did I join the Navy? I think I told you that. The Marines wouldn't take me, so I went over and joined the Navy. And of course, everything was going real smooth about that time. And said, did you have any of your friends go to war with you? Well, yes. When I went over to the post office in Birmingham to join the Navy, I went down in the basement where the recruiting place was, and there's about 4 or 5 boys I was raised with was already down there. And we ended up with a company, which was a group of about 35 or 40. And we were all taken into the Navy in that little ceremony down there in the basement. And they were told us, when we got through, the man said, hold your hand up, and we're going to swear you in. And we swore us in and said, all right, man, you're in the Navy now. So said, be back up here at 8 o'clock tonight. You're going to San Diego. So it sort of shocked us, we didn't think it'd be that fast. But anyway, we did go, and we got there, and that's for the friends that he was asking me about. Now, I had one friend, very close friend, that we went to church together and everything. And we stayed right together for a long time after we went aboard ship. He was in the 1st Division, which is up forward. I was in the 6th, which is back this way. And he said, did you miss your family? Yeah, I missed my family. I got homesick in about a month, 6 weeks over there. In boot camp, you washed your own whites. We wore whites all the time. But in San Diego, the temperature was good, the weather was good. You washed them outside. They had big scrub boards out there where you put them up there and scrub your whites, and I tell it a lie. I said, scrubbing them things and tears running down my cheek. I just thinking about, boy, I didn't have to do nothing like this at home. But we didn't, that was my stay in boot camp. And were you worried in the war? And there was many times that would be something to think about. Always you're worried about what's going to happen. Now, we went out aboard ship, like I say, in Pearl Harbor. And we went to first trip out. We went out and fired all the guns out in the open, saved that whole work good, And then we spent about 2 days. We went to Wake Island and just bombarded the place there. Japanese still owned it at that time. And we came back. So, and I know they just never did take weight during the war. They just starved them out. They couldn't They wouldn't let them get no supplies or anything. And what was the name of the ship? The USS New Orleans. I think I mentioned that. Yeah, New Orleans. Your cruisers is all named after cities, and battleships after states, like that. And how long were you in the service? I was in the service, a little over 3 years. 3 years in the Navy, then about 4 years in the Army and the Air Force Reserve units. I would join those things after I got back. And any questions so far? Speak up, yeah. All right. How hard was it to be in the war? Well, that wasn't hard at all. Once you joined, you was in it. And you didn't have to worry about it. It started coming to you. But like I said, that was the first little skirmish we had. And we come back to Pearl Harbor and got with a group of ships. And we joined this task force, what they call a task force. So that would be with all types of ships together and travel together. And the Task Force 58 was well known back then, and we was a member of that. You had 4 aircraft carriers, about 6 or 8 cruisers like mine, and then about 12 or 15 destroyers. Now that bunch traveled together all the time. And after a day or two after we left Pearl Harbor, we was in danger zone from then on. And the destroyers, they were stacked that way so that they could protect the carriers. They were the meat that the enemy wanted. They tried to get to those carriers. That was what they wanted to attack. But that's the way we traveled, and like I say, and we started towards, we call it South Atlantic over there, Atlantic, Pacific. And there's a series of islands, the Gilberts and Marshall, and I forget what the other were. That's all between Hawaiian Islands and, say, Australia. That's a vast area, but it was the purpose of the war itself was to take over these islands, you see. And with the men, soldiers, Marines, they were on the transport ships, and we would go as a group near that island, and then cruisers and destroyers like I'm talking about, they came in, we came in close enough and used all of our guns to try to tear the place up before the men started landing. Well, I'm moving a little fast, but I was very fortunate that what I call my battle station, I'll tell you about that in a minute. I had a battle station up high on the superstructure back up here, and I could see so much. I could see a lot that nobody else could. That is, people down lower in the ship who couldn't know what's going on. And that's why you see the Marines on the beaches, landing on the beaches, and all the firing going on with that. We took Tarawa, Macon, and 4 or 5 other names of the island. Now this is over a long period of time, say a year and a half. And after they took over one island, we would be scattered out over the ocean. We building ships so fast, we had a whole other task force. We were task force number 1, and then we had 2, and before the war was over, we had 4. And excuse me. And so let me get back to my questions. I'm not used to this, and I'll wander off my subject matter here. And how long were you in the service? I think I answered that. And then I got a couple here together. How hard was it to be in the war, and were you proud to serve? And what was the atmosphere like during the war? Now that's a pretty broad subject there. Oh, thank you. But talk about being proud to be in it. I was always proud to be as a part of the United States and their services. And it's something that being proud is thinking, after you get out, you think of what you've done and what you served on. And our place, like I say, we were traveling about 3 or 4 of the cruisers, they're middle-sized ships, and then the small ones, we traveled a lot. And then we started running into the Japanese planes like 2 days out of Pearl Harbor. And it got to where we were having attacks 2 or 3 times a day. They had landing places on these little islands. They're not little, but that was, see, they still held all those islands, and they could fly off those islands where we only had the carriers out there to operate until sometime later they started taking those islands, and we lost oodles of men taking those islands, and that's all I said. I always felt safe, a lot safer on the ship. I was glad I was in the Navy and not in the Army and Marines having to land on these islands. And some of them were beautiful islands, and they probably wouldn't be bigger than Homewood, I guess, or something like that. But in that far south, there was palm trees all over the islands like that. And after we'd bombarded them, a lot of times it was just like a bunch of toothpicks sticking up everything. We'd blowed all the foliage and everything off the trees by the time the men started landing. And the atmosphere was always, I think the atmosphere was something we was always on our mind, and we were reminded of it, because you had to be on alert, and we'd have the air attacks, and the system on the ship was every man had a place, a cleaning station, what they call it. But then we had a battle station, which, we went to general quarters, and that's when you go to your stations and prepare for anything that's going to happen. And like I say, we had the anti-aircraft guns up and down the ship. That's what I was. I was a gunner's mate on a 40mm anti-aircraft gun. And there too, we were topside, and there's a lot of men down below, but we could always see what was going on above. And let me get some of that water, maybe. And somebody thinking of Christmas.
And guys, he was talking
I'm
about...
old, but I think I can get this off.
He was talking about the Pacific Islands, and that map right behind him, we've got the Pacific Islands up.
Oh, yeah.
Those are some of them that we'll talk about next week when we do the Pacific Theater, so
As
we'll
you-
remember.
As the geography that I'm talking about, all the way from Pearl Harbor to Australia. And here you go. Actually, you can see or not. But Guadalcanal was one of the first places. Now that's where one of the first places, they lost several thousand men on those things there. Now, jumping ahead about a year and a half or 2 years, we was, as our task force, the Japanese ship was coming down to replenish Guadalcanal. They had about a couple of transports of men and their battleships and others, but they were trying to get the supply the Guadalcanal because they weren't able to get anything else in there. The submarines kept them away, but we had an engagement we fought together with this group and our group. We fought them one night down there, and we lost two of the cruisers in the line, Quincy and Astoria. During the night, they were sunk, and but we just got a few hits. But that's the first engagement we had with the Japanese Navy. And Torrado was terrible, it's in the Gilberts. And I think we lost a lot of men there. Now, Kwajalein, I remember it real well because they have what you call atolls. And it's a large circle of island, and it's a pool inside. It's huge, like this. And we use them as anchorage. You can go in there sometime and we spend a night or two in there. You can anchor, and you're pretty safe in there. That is as far as submarines is concerned. But those places were beautiful. All the islands are beautiful. But I get the side fair in a minute. Now, let me say something about again about the ship, and then I'll get to that. Like I told you, everybody had their own battle station. That when they had an alert, you go to your battle station where there's guns, whatever you're doing, and put your life jacket on and stay ready, because we was constantly at night, especially, being harassed with Japanese planes, and we'd go to the battle stations and sometimes stay there 3 or 4 hours or something. And planes would come in close, but not very often at night, because we could knock them down, but sometimes there's several more planes than you could handle. And we have all the firing going on. It looked like a bunch of mosquitoes flying around up there. And now I'd like to say, I was on a 40 millimeter anti-aircraft gun, and it was in a tub with 4 of those things sticking up. We could train around on our side of the ship, and we could fire whenever something come in close enough that we could fire. And so it wasn't nothing unusual to go to battle stations 4 or 5 times on a shift. That'd be a night and a day like that. But where all our sleeping quarters was down below, and the personnel of the 6th Division, which I was in, had about 30 or 40 men in it. They visited us near the ship, the gun mount, and like I say, I was in the center part of the ship. This is where our guns were, so we slept straight down below, and we'd have to jump out and get out of when the alarm was sounded. You got out of your bunk, and most time you could put your shoes on and your pants, and you went to your battle station, put your life jacket on, helmet on, and everything, and got ready for what you was going to do. We had radar. I know most of you know what radar was. We're real fortunate to have that, because especially not only at night and day, they could pick those planes up about 4 or 5 miles out, and as they're coming, as we're getting closer, we'd all go to battle stations and get ready for them. And then they'd come in and they'd try to get to the carriers. I tell you about that's what they wanted to get to, and knock them out. And so, but we could knock the planes down pretty good if they came close enough to us. But the idea that radar was a big help to us, because otherwise we wouldn't know what they were doing. But and they could slip in on you sometime. One little incident, it was noontime, and I had just eat chow, and I was going up one, we call them a stair, which is a ladder to the next deck where I'm on. I went up there, and I was coming up the deck, and I could see it out, and here come 2 torpedo planes straight in. There's about a mile out, but I could see them. And I run back up and got up on top where I was. I got the time there, and that one I went across behind the ship, and the carrier itself, they had covered with anti-aircraft guns. They hit him right on the nose and knocked him out. But they sure did try to slip up on us any way they could. And what did you do? And that's exactly what I did. My job was there was two of us assigned to the gun during all the time. And you kept the gun clean, you did what it was, everything needed to go with, so that it would be ready. And if they came and had an alert, you wanted the guns to be ready. And we could move those guns back and forth like this. And there was up about ceiling high was what they called a director. It was just a little fence with behind the handlebars on it and a sight right here in front of the box. And you could, down below here, you could turn the motors on the gun, and with the director, you could, way up there, you could operate the guns from up there. And that's what I was on the director short time after we went to sea. Now, that's what I'd done. Not most of the time was I was a director operator, and as far as I know, I never directly hit one plane the whole time I was out there. When everybody's firing, you don't know who's going to hit what, you know. And but there was a couple of good things, but I'm drifting now. What did I do in the war or in near-death situations? I'd say that would be quite a few, because later on we had the Japanese. They had torpedoes. All their ships carried torpedoes, the battleships and everything. And one day we was in a line. The ships were in a line. Our group was, and he had a plane from the carrier fighter. He was sort of watching for us, and he passed the word, said, tell the last ship in line to watch out very close, because they're coming y'all's way, you know. Well, we talking about being close to danger, and sure enough, straight out, we could see one coming, and they turned the ship facing, so it went right by us. But you never know how many come close to you like that. But as long as the planes are around or you're near the ships, you're in a what was the word he used? Okay, what did I do? Near-death situations, yeah, and done making your friends. Well, down there, jumped down into the sleeping quarters. We had, like I say, we had bunks. Some of them, they'd be about 4 or 5 high. Of course, it wasn't nothing but a little aluminum ring and canvas top. But we had a small mattress in there, and it was sleep okay. But down on the equator, it got so hot. All the air conditioning we had was the force of air coming down and they blew it all through the ship, and it got hot down there, and especially, like I say, right down near the equator. And a lot of times I've got up on my bunk and you could slap it, my sheet would be wet from sweat. And but there wasn't much you could do about it. And a lot of times we'd just take a blanket and go up and sleep on deck, sometimes like that. Did I make many friends, or did you see any of them? Yeah, you make a lot of friends. You know, there's not only the group that's in your gun crew, but different ones aboard ship. And like I say, my close friend that went in with me, he was in the first division, way up front, and back here where I was. And sometimes it'd go a week or two, and I'd never see him. The only place we could see him when we came to mess hall, right, which is right in the middle. And but yeah, I could name all men to my division at one time, and I'll never forget some of them. We day and night, and you're near each other, and